So like I was telling you, Moonlens do have one exciting tool, and that is the ability to calculate your own lenses. And for that, we need some data. The data that we require are refraction, uh, HBID, which usually you won't see that in the calculator, and I'm going to show you in the next slide, and the K readings, right? There's another factors that we may want to have, and it's better just to make a more proper fit. But if you don't have, you can just simply check a box, and that will give the more standard data. And I'm talking about the eccentricity. So let's switch slide. So Moonlens calculator, that's the exciting tool to have. So as you can see, with the Moonlens calculator, you're gonna put some information about your patient. You're just gonna put the spherical refraction. You're gonna have, this is gonna be by default 10.6, because that's usually the standard diameter that it has seen uh, more good results. Just be careful about the diameter, because if you have like a larger cornea, like if you have like let's say a 12 millimeter cornea, then probably 10.6 is going to be a smaller diameter, and that lens is going to move and it's going to be the center. So you can actually change, like I was telling you, by default, the 10.6 will be standard, but you can change that and just just switch 0.4 to the diameter, and an 11 diameter is going to work better for that larger corneas, right? So like I was telling you, you can select either the 5.0, 5.5, 6.0 optic zone or treatment zone. You're gonna put the spherical refraction. You're gonna place the flat K or the flat RO. The flat RO, what it refers to is just the flattest point of the cornea, and you can select that. I mean, if you do have a topographer that can give you that attribute, that's gonna work the best. But if you don't, just by adding a quarter of a diopter to the flattest cake, that's gonna be um, a good measurement for that data that is required. But if you want to just put flat K, you can just put the flat K. So if you have eccentricity, we know some topographers just give you an eccentricity value, but some other topographers can give you the flat eccentricity or the steep eccentricity. So if you do have those separate, that's good enough. But if you don't have those, then you can just check the box on on the the calculator where it says use regular. I do believe it says that use regular eccentricity, and that's gonna be I think it's let me see, 0.5 in the flattest eccentricity and zero 0.4 in the steep eccentricity. So like I was telling you as well, you can do the steep K or the steep RO, and just by adding a quarter of a diopter to the steep K, that will give you the steep RO. And so once you have all the data in the system, it's going to create your lens, and it's going to tell you what measurements is going to be it's going to be done on your lens. So it's going to say, like, for instance, let me see, where's my pointer? It's going to say, for instance, okay, in the back optic zone, it's a 6.0. The reverse curve is going to be 0.574. The alignment zone is going to be 33. This is angles, and this is degrees. So this is an angle. And there's the, if it is a toric lens, it's going to be a steep. reverse curve and a alignment zone equal as steep, because it's going to have two curves different, right? It's going to be a toric design. This is a symmetric design and this is a toric design. So like I was telling you, so here's another example, and this is just with the standard eccentricity, and it's going to create the lens based off, and it's going to tell you the type of lens you are ordering, and that's very helpful, and that's going to be more precise for you, because you can just enter your own data and that can create your lens, right? So like I was telling you, diameter selection wise, it's going to be between 10.6 and 11. 10.6 being the standard, 11 is going to be for larger corneas, and there's basically a rule, but I mean, it's going to be 0.8 below the HBAD. But what is suggested by the lab is going to be 10.6 and 11.0, sorry. So that is why it is very necessary for you to measure HBAD and just to have that measurements so that you can select the best diameter for your Ortho-k lens. And remembering that lens diameter is going to be to avoid lens decentration with Ortho-k, and you don't want to have lens decentration because that's going to be giving you eventually glares and double vision. So yeah, so you want to wait, because as you can imagine, if the lens is decentered, and it's going to be, I mean, if this is the left lens, it's going to be temporal decentration usually. So it's going to be the reverse curve is going to be right about here. So yeah, you want to really assess the HBAD just to have the best lens diameter selected to avoid more exchanges, right? So like I was telling you, there's an optical zone, and that's like for regular RGP fitting, you will eventually would like to do the fitting based off the base curve, right? But just remember that in Ortho-k, you are not doing the fitting based on the base curve. You are doing it on the alignment zone. So just remember that this area is, the purpose of this area is just to create the molding of the cornea and just to have the correction of the cornea being made with this. This is going to create a positive pressure down here, and a negative pressure is going to be created on the reverse curve. But it is going to be a positive pressure down here, and that's going to make the epithelial cells distribute and just mold that cornea with the base curve. That's going to be the functionality of the base curve. So the base curve is going to have what is known by the Jessen factor, and it's going to be plus 0.50, and that's just to maintain as much time as we can the treatment, right? So we do want to go with this plus 0.50, sorry, to create the effect of the Ortho-k treatment last even longer. You can change this by 0.1 millimeters, but I do believe it's going to be like it's going to be based off your case, right? So then the design has the return curve or the reverse curve. I mean, it's basically the same. It's going to be the reverse geometry curve. And this can be changed in increments of 1 micron. This curve, basically what it does is change the depth of the optic zone. So whenever you are changing the reverse curve, either if you are making it more steeper, you're going to be creating more flatter the optic zone, and if you're doing it more flatter, you're going to be making it more steeper on the treatment zone. So this is usually used to do some overcorrection that is needed. This is not gonna make any effect on the centration of the lens. It's just the purpose is just to manage the optic zone. Okay. So as well as you can see here, it's gonna be decrease or increase of the optic zone, and it's showing right here the changes that we are making. So just remember, with a regular RGP fit, you want to maintain like 20 microns between the cornea and the lens. But with Ortho-k, you want to go smaller just to create that pressure on the cornea. And like you're saying here, the target is around 7 microns. And as like I was telling you before, you can change the reverse curve a micron at a time. So you can either go 10 microns at once, or you can just go 1 micron. It's gonna depend. I usually prefer just leave the lab and make those choices. Even if I have the ability to do it, I just prefer the lab to do it. For me, what we can assess, like in this case, that's kind of my job, when we can just say, okay, we can just move. But I do eventually prefer the lab to give that ultimate assessment about how many microns to go, increase or decrease. So like I was telling you, whenever you're doing a fit on Ortho-k, you are doing it on, and whenever you want to achieve that centration and that fit, it's going to be done in the alignment zone. So for instance, Euclid has 5 peripheral curves. So that's the treatment zone, that's the reverse curve, 2 alignment zones, curves, sorry, and 1 at the very edge, right? Which that will promote the tear exchange. So with Moonlens, you have the alignment zone, which is gonna do the fit of the lens, and that's gonna create the centration of the lens, and that's gonna be dependent of the angle of how much the cornea is gonna flat at the periphery, right? So just remember that it is the fit of the Ortho-k lens is gonna be usually made at 8mm chord. So that is why it's very important. And as Randy has mentioned in many webinars, a 30 microns difference in between the 2 meridians, the horizontal and the vertical, or the steep and the flattest meridian, is gonna create whether we should go to a toric lens or a symmetric lens. So that is why it's very important to know how much difference we have at the 8mm chord, just to determine what type of lens we are gathering. And that you can see with the eccentricity values that we were talking about a little before with the calculator. So as you can see here, this is the alignment zone. It's going to be right around here, and that's where the cornea tends to flatten. As we know, we have at the center very not very steep, but the highest point of the cornea, and as you go to the periphery of the cornea, is going to be more flat, and that is why we need to align that lens with the flattest zone on the cornea. And this you can do in a range between 20 and 50 degrees, and you can just change by 0.01 degrees each step to align better the lens, right? So like I was telling you, this is the alignment zone. This is where you're gonna fit that lens. So like this is saying, it produces the landing and alignment with the eye surface. Yeah, and as you can see here, is you're gonna have this is gonna create as well the edge to make changes just by going up or down. Lower angle, more edge lift. Higher angle is gonna be a less edge lift. I mean, and as you know, even though we are using these lenses at night, we do have to have tear exchange, and that is why we need to have some edge lift to create that tear exchange. So, uh, so I want to ask you, how about this? Do you think this is gonna be a more symmetric lens? Do you think this is gonna be a symmetric lens? Or do you see here, this is gonna be a symmetric lens? Should we go to a toric? What do you think about these topographies? Anybody could answer? That would be great. Don't be shy, just go ahead and answer whatever you think. I mean, you can say the right one is gonna be asymmetric lens needed. The center one is gonna be a toric, or the left one is gonna be symmetric as well. So what do you think? Anybody? Okay, yeah, there we have right toric. Oh, hi, Dr. Chokron. Right historic. Yeah, that's correct. So with this one, right? With this one, the thing here is like, let's go 5 parts. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Okay, so with this one, we have like with the rule, astigmatism, corneal astigmatism, and it's at the very apex of the cornea, right? So this one here, as you can see, we have the green here, and this is gonna tell us that the cornea is gonna be more symmetric cornea. With this one, it's a limbus limbs with the rule of astigmatism, and with this one, we kind of get lost in this green area. So if we were about to fit an Ortho-k lens, asymmetric Ortho-k lens, we will probably see like really a good fit here, but we will see kind of some fluorescing in this portion of the lens. So if we were to see that, the lens will be rocking, and that will create not an ideal fit for that patient, and it's going to create movement. So that the effect of the lens wouldn't be the proper one. So with this type of corneas, whenever you see a topography with this type of shape, yeah, you immediately know that this is going to be a toric lens, and eventually you can um, uh, have issues if you fit asymmetric lens. But that's the good thing about the calculator, because having the calculator is going to tell you already if you need an symmetric lens or a toric lens. So like I was telling you, that's the beauty of it. Just knowing with that what type of lens you are requesting. So this will help. And just immediately after seeing this, you're gonna know it's gonna be a symmetric lens, but a toric lens, sorry. And if you see this, you're gonna know, okay, maybe a symmetric lens is gonna work. Like I was telling you, Randy Kojima, based on studies made at the Pacific University, he has told that about a 30 microns difference in between the flat and the steep meridian is gonna be more lean to a toric design. I have seen, and I'm not doing research on that, but I have seen many of my patients with some somewhat around 25 to 30 microns that it goes really well with a toric design instead of a symmetric design. So whenever I do a topography with, I do have the Medmont, so that topographer gives me that information right away. So whenever I see a difference between those two meridians, about 25 microns, I immediately just go with a toric lens because I know that's going to work better for my patient. And it's going to be creating me less complaints and less issues with my patients. So I just do prefer to go with that. So like I was telling you, well, toric design is just two curves and just trying to align better the curves and just closing it differently. And as you can see, the previous example that I told you, you have the ACA steep and the ACA flat, and just that is just meant to be like two different meridians in the lens, creating the toricity to maintain more center lens. So, like I was telling you, a toric alignment is chosen for eyes with a difference of 30 microns of peripheral toricity. Toric landing for astigmatic eyes. Just remember, whenever you are doing Ortho-k, you are not correcting the astigmatism of the patient. You are the toricity built on the lens is not for that purpose. It's just to align better the lens. And that is why whenever you see the calculator, you're just gonna see the spherical refraction required. You just have to put the flat K and the steep K, even if it has like this corneal seal, but you don't need just a spherical. So like I was telling you, 30 microns of exact difference. And yeah, so that's the end of the presentation. So I do wanna talk to you a little bit about the parameters. So this is an FDA approved lens, and this is an FDA approved lens up to -5, just the regular FDA approved parameters for Ortho-k, but we can fit with this lens and we can correct up to a -8. The thing is that it's going to be off label, but we do have the ability to correct up to a -8 in myopia, and the seal FDA approved is going to be 1.5 diopters with the rule and 0.75 against the rule. But with Moonlens, we can do a lens with up to a -2.5 seal. So whenever you do have that, that's gonna expand our ability to select our patients, because sometimes, like in other designs, like I was telling you, for instance, let's talk a little bit about Euclid, you are restricted to a -5. But when you are fitting Moonlens, so for patients that have a -7, 7.25, you can just go with it and you can just correct that. And that, like I was telling you, that's going to expand the ability to choose your patients, and you're not going to be restricted to -5. I just want to be clear with you, and just that you be aware that correcting higher myopias is going to be more a more slowly progression. I mean, it has been studied that making lenses for a -5 is going to take much longer than correcting a -1. So imagine a -7 between a -1. So this is important to know, just because what should we talk to our patients, what to tell them to expect, how much long it's gonna take. And it's gonna be just the regular assessment with an Ortho-k. You're gonna have the dispense of the lens, and with the dispense of the lens, you want to go with fluorescein pattern. And my suggestion is don't go making changes based off the fluorescein pattern, because even if you aren't able to get, let's see, we have one image here about a fluorescein pattern. Yeah, even if you don't get this beautiful fluorescein pattern, um, you don't want to go and make changes, because you can either have a more larger reverse curve. Um, you do, like I was, you don't want to go with that just on the very dispense of the lens. You want to wait. So the regular follow-up visit for any patient is going to be, like I was telling you, dispense of the lens, one night after using the lens. You do want to do a follow-up checkup on the patient. And here's your, it, it's not a rule, but it usually goes that you will have like a 50% correction of the myopia. But this correction is gonna disappear during the day. You're probably gonna have like this nice vision for your patient. It's gonna be very happy. And this vision is gonna be around maybe, I don't know, 6 hours. And then it's gonna be going backwards slowly. They need to use the lenses, the glasses, the contact lenses, whatever they are using before. They do need them afterwards, uh, in the very few days after starting with the treatment. So then we need to do a follow-up visit at maybe 10 to 15 days. And here you can basically see 90% of progression of the treatment. And usually the patients do come and just say like, okay, I wake up at 7, I take out my lenses and I go back at maybe 8, 9, and I do feel that the vision goes backwards a little bit. And just be very clear with the vision going backwards. It's not gonna be like if it were like before treatment, the vision was 2200. The vision won't go back to a 2200. It's gonna be like if we achieve the 2020 vision, the vision is going to go back maybe 2025 or something like that. It's not going to be that worse, but it's good that the patient knows what to expect, right? You have to be very clear when doing Ortho-k on what the expectation is for the patient. So, and then we do one last follow-up at the month, and you can do, I have seen people saying like you do want to go with a 3-month follow-up visit just because the end of warranty is about that time, and you don't want to see if you need any changes between that. If you were to make any change on the lens based off the topographical maps that you are going to take on each visit, if you do want to make a change, that change should be at the very end of the month. I wouldn't suggest you doing any changes. I mean, obviously, and I want to make a point clear here, if everything is going right, I mean, I wouldn't do, for sure, I wouldn't do it one night after. I mean, you can do it at the 15-day checkup, but if the vision isn't that good, just remember the lens is gonna center along that month. And I do want to make that clear here that the greater the myopia, the larger, like I was telling you before, the longer it's gonna take to create the overall correction. So that is why I do not recommend making those changes too early. It is usually suggested by the labs to wait between the 15 and 1 month period to do some changes in Ortho-k lenses. But I mean, like I was telling you, there's 3 months period that you have warranty. And in those 3 months, maybe do a follow-up visit 3 months. Then the next should be 3 months later than that. And then yearly follow-up visit will be great when doing Ortho-k. So, like I was telling you, I really extended myself. I told you what's gonna be a brief one. But yeah, basically we didn't go that in depth about topographic findings that you may have, like the bullseye, the smiley face, the frowny face, the central island. Uh, but we do want to create another session. And like I was telling you, I should have Dr. Randy Kojima with us and just expanding what I have told you here. Like I was telling you, this is a very good lens, and like it's expanding the possibilities of patients to see and the treatments for those type of patients. So I want to ask you if you do have any questions that we want to address. Please let me know. If there isn't any question, then by all means, oh yeah, we do have some questions apparently. Do you want to write it down on the Q&A? So by doing that, it's gonna be I can that's gonna be recorded and I can send that to you as well. Let's see. Uh, oh, let's see. So, Dr. Gideon. Oh, okay. Let me see here. Oh, we do have one question. What is the best material recommended for these lenses? So these lenses are made with the Boston equal lens. I think that's the material. We do not have selection because the FDA approved is made with Boston materials. So they have just made all the Ortho-k lenses with Boston materials. So that's the equal lens, yeah, 85 DK material. That's the material that is available. What is the expected risk for microbial keratitis? So yeah, that's one of the main concerns, just because we know that the lens is really kind of making pressure on the cornea. I mean, it's very low. We have some studies. I can send you the studies, Dr. Hamade. I can share with you those studies, and it's very, very low. I do not remember right now the actual number, but it's very, very low. And it usually goes away with lubricants, as you may know, and it's not gonna be that much of an issue. But we do have some studies, and I can send it to you. Can I apply HydroPeg on this lens to improve comfort? Dr. Nizar, no, not that I'm aware of. Remember that these lenses with this material is approved by FDA, and we do have something that we battle against, and it's just has been there because we usually do recommend patients not to sleep with lenses, and with these lenses we have to break that barrier and say to them, like, go ahead, this is perfectly fine, you can sleep with these lenses and you can just feel secure that this lens is not gonna affect the cornea. And just Dr. Hamady, my experience with SPK is very, very low. Actually, I haven't had any cases as of yet with this, and maybe I'm not the one that has done many, but I do have have been doing Ortho-k for quite some time, and I do not have had any case. So eventually, like I was telling you, I will attach those studies, and for everyone here, here's the thing: I will attach all the studies that we have on Ortho-k, and send it to you so that you can just read and just go uh, and be secure that you're doing something that is very, very, very low on having some issues with the cornea. I do want to emphasize on this thing. You do want to check cornea every single time the patient goes with you. And you do want to see, I mean, if you have staining at the center, you know the treatment zone is too low, right? And you do want to take care of that by doing some changes in the reverse curve. Uh, if you do have staining at the periphery, maybe the alignment zone is too flat, and you do have, so it's very localized staining that you're gonna have with these contact lenses. So there's another question: in case of any issues, can we deal with the complaints without involving ophthalmologists if possible? I mean, uh, you do want to have, you do want to check, Dr. Halabi, you do want to check which type, like I was telling you, some types of staining, and depending on the grade of staining that you have, you do want to, I mean, if it's a low, like a few, like a very low staining, you may want to just apply lubricants to that cornea, and that surface is gonna just be well. Uh, Sometimes there's abrasions to the cornea, and that's just gonna be how they insert the lens and how they remove the lens, or if the lens do have some deposits that can create abrasion to the cornea. And with abrasions, you want to be more careful, and you may want to eventually, depending on how much is that, you may want to assess with an ophthalmologist to give treatment. So yeah, you do want to be clear on what type of issue you're having. Can the same lenses use for more than 1 year? So, Dr. Closey, yeah. I mean, it is expected to change the lens every year. Um, uh, we just recently had this another meeting, and it's gonna depend. The lens could go, yeah, maybe year and a half, depending on how well taken care is the lens. And if the lens is really good, yeah, and that is why you can also ask the patients to bring the lens each time the patient goes with you, and you can just assess the hygiene of the lens and see how the lens is. Remember that the materials tend to flex, and if the lens flex, the treatment may not be as good as it was. So I do have, how long the patients have to sleep with the lens at night? Oh, that's a great question. So yeah, I mean, the Dr. Mohevi. So the suggested sleep wear of the lens is gonna be 8 hours. 8 hours is gonna be like the standard, like the good, a good time to be with the lenses. I do tend to say to people, I need at least 6 hours to make the duration of the treatment go at least from when you wake up until night, and just knowing that it's going to be a regression of the cornea, but it's going to be a slow regression of the cornea, and that's just going to create some blurry vision eventually. But 8 hours is going to be like for the full effect. I mean, people people have asked me like, okay, if I go 10 hours of sleep, is that okay? And I said, that's not gonna depend on how much you sleep with the lens. I mean, I need 8 hours. You can go either 10 or 12. The effect is gonna be the same. I hope that that helps you. What is the procedure to retest the vision after some time later, a year or so? For how long should the patient remove his lens before the vision examination? Okay, Dr. Hamade. Okay, so that is a great question. And what is usually needed, like, because you're not doing like a full washout. I mean, if we were to make a full washout of the lens, it's gonna be and it actually isn't a full washout, even if I tell you a month, because it's not gonna be entirely uh, washed out of the treatment, but it's gonna be well for your examination, right? But here's the thing: when you have done some patients and the patient are doing their activities without any lenses, telling them to stop wearing the lens for a month, they're gonna basically want to murder you because they are so used to uh, doing things without any lenses that saying to them, just take the lens 1 month and use your regular glasses and everything, and they probably won't be doing the regular glasses in the first days of removing the Ortho-k lens. So what we have discussed with some labs is just telling them to do 1 week, and 1 week usually works to give the proper examination and just to assess if it is needed to make any change, if the myopia has progressed. I mean, but here's the thing. If you see, and I want to ask you backwards to you, if you see myopia increment of a quarter, would you, and that quarter doesn't make any changes on vision, would you do an adjustment on the lens? Mm, anyone? Anyone? And I mean, the lens is very well done. So, yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Just doing a quarter of diopter and seeing that that quarter of a diopter isn't doing anything for the visual acuity, I wouldn't change. I mean, but if that quarter improved my vision by maybe, let's say, 1 or 2 lines, well, then I will change the lens. Whenever you're doing a myopia management, what you need to do is just basically go ahead and measure actual length, because you're gonna base the progression of myopia based on actual length. You're not doing it based off the myopia that you're getting. Just remember that I do not have the exact number, how much is the actual length related to a quarter, but it's very, very small. But you do want to assess the actual length. So whenever, and this is my recommendation, if you do have a biomicroscope and you can measure the actual length of a biomicroscope, yeah, yeah, and you do have the ability to check the actual length, go ahead and start with that. And let's do a follow-up based on the actual length after a year. But if you do not have a biomicroscope, you do have some tools that you can use, and there's some pages that can give you an approximate measurement of the actual length based on the refraction and based on the case. And that's not as accurate, but that gives you an idea of how long is the eye. And that can, and actually that's a page on the internet that you can search for, and I can as well send it to you on the email. And I'm just taking notes right now of what do I need, and you can just, whenever, the thing is, each single device that is being done for myopia management is relying basically on actual length. What do you want to avoid is just having that actual length, sorry, grow as fast as it can. You want to make it as low as you can. So actual length is very important when doing myopia management. Um, how to tell, depending on the age, no. I have a patient with a topography presenting suspicion of keratoconus. Can I fit? No. So actually, you do have to check up because Ortho-k is not meant to be for irregular corneas. I that's a tricky part because if there is a percentage to have a keratoconic cornea, then you should probably avoid that type of patient, Dr. Gideon. So yeah, so let me see here. Okay, and I do have one question in the Q&A. Let me see what I can do. Oh yeah, that has been answered. Sorry that I didn't read it here earlier, Dr. Gideon. Okay, dry eye patients. Moderate dry eye patients, it is usually not recommended to. I have fitted some, but it's, I have to tell them, and I have been telling them to use eye drops, lubricants as much as they can, just to maintain a good visual quality. So I wouldn't recommend that much going. But if you do talk clearly to your patients and you want to go with and take that kind of risk, because it's a risk. You can do it, but the results may vary. So if you want to take my word for it, I would strongly suggest go with the basics first and then try to go farther and go with more tougher cases. And that is my suggestion. Whenever you're doing an insertion of the lens, it is very highly recommended to drop lubricant, get a lubricant drop on the ball of the lens and just inserting that lens with that. And just as well as removing the lens, just make a lubricant to release a little bit the lens and just take out. So yeah, during the day, remember that these lenses is the way that these lenses are used is with the eyes closed, right? So during the day, you can just recommend the patients to use lubricants as much as they can. So with that being said, I do want to thank you for your participation with me today. I know that this wasn't what you were expecting. I hope I have fulfilled this presentation for you. It was exciting for me to go ahead and give it to you. And yeah, I'm just happy to be able to do it. Like I was telling you, we will be sending you a new date with Dr. Randy Kojima just to go more in depth with Moonlens design, the Ortho-k Moonlens design. Okay. So thank you so much, sorry, but I tried to fit him, and after I checked the cornea with the topo, the shape was acceptable on his vision too. Yes, it's not. It was great. Is there any surface modification made in this lens to make it more comfortable having antimicrobial? I'm just gonna answer this one last for Dr. Asaf. There isn't any surface modification. Like I was telling you, you can't make it with Hydrope. the one thing that I can recommend, and like I was telling you before, is just putting a drop of lubricant, a preservative-free lubricant, and just when the patient's going to bed. One thing that I did forgot to mention was just remember that the lens should be put on like maybe 10, 15 minutes before going to actually sleeping, and just recommending the patients not to use the lenses with eyes open, because the lens will move and they can decenter with that. One question that you will get more often than not is what happens if I wake up at the middle of the night and I do have to go to the bathroom? What happens then? If that were to happen, the patient's gonna be seeing really nice with those lenses, but it's not intended to use for daily activities, right? So the best suggestion for them is go ahead, go to the bathroom. You're going to see perfectly fine. And then you should go back and sleep. You don't have to take the cell phone. You don't have to take anything, because that's going to make the lens move. And that's not going to create a more precise fit, precise treatments later on. Okay. So yeah, I just want to be clear on that. And yeah, thank you so much for attending here with me again. It has been nice. I'm thrilled to be able to share this with you, and we will be seeing you soon. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Stay safe. Have a good night.